discipline with love. Positive communication equals discipline with love. All right. Well, as said before, I'm Edwina Neely and my husband, Bill Neely. We've been married 54 years. We had 4 children, and we're always happy to come together with other parents along their parenting journey. And we hope that you enjoy being a parent as much as we do. We are authors, and I put our information on the screen so you can look and check out our website. I've written 4 books. 2 of the books were children's books. Those were my first books because I'm a teacher. And I wanted children to know that they are to have great bodies. They're be thankful for their bodies and thankful for food. So that's the 2 books. And you can see those books on my website, edwinagraceneely.com. And then the book that we'll be looking at tonight, some of the information is in this book called Children Are Gifts. I'll call you on page 70 is a chapter on discipline that we'll be looking at. My latest book is called Lessons from the Creator, and I'm starting a class tomorrow night at 7. If you're interested, go to my website and you can sign up. Hope to see some of you there. All right, my husband will tell you about his book.
I'm a relationship architect, helping people build, design, plan, and maintain their relationships, whether it's with themselves, with spouse, significant other, children. And this book is called The Gift of Criticism. One of the things that we're generally not very good at is presenting and or responding to criticism. So my goal is to help us have mutually beneficial outcomes from criticism.
Okay, so much for us. And the numbers there, I hope you were able to copy them down. My husband is an architect, and he would love to have you call and set up an appointment if you want to have more information. Now, I'd like to put up this first. As parents, our children are gifts. And as parents, we have to discover their giftedness. What are they? And you'll find if you have more than one, everyone is different and they have different gifts. So my theme for life is that every child is a gift. No child is a mistake. No child is an accident. No child is a pain.
So if you've ever said that or thought it, look at the child as a gift, and there are various ways you can do that to reframe how you see the child, even when their behavior is other than you would like. That's a whole seminar in itself.
Right. And then I've heard some parents, well, my child was a mistake. I hadn't planned that child. And I said, you know that, but you want your child to know that you love, you are loved. And they don't have to be told, I don't want you to be here. They don't need to know that. I mean, my husband as a counselor had a parent that was, well, you can tell.
Which one are you talking about?
The child, the daughter came to you upset because of what the parent had told her about herself.
Oh, this was teenager, and her mom, she and her mom were having a heated exchange, an argument, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And in the midst of this, the mother said to the daughter with full throttled anger, I should have aborted you. And then it got very quiet.
Can you feel the hurt?
Now it's too late to draw that back. The apologies, the tears, it's too late. So we want to plan before we speak and be in control of our emotions so that we do no harm in the situation, even though it may be unpleasant. It's about the focus is on relationships, and we use the relationship to bridge the desired changes in the behavior.
Okay. So what we just talked about, this is a summary of it. Careless words stab like a sword, but wise words bring healing. Now, you know, didn't you feel stabbed when Bill said, I wish I had aborted you? I mean, that hurts. And children become what we call them. So if we call them negative things all the time, they will live that kind of life. I had a young boy that came to school and said, I'm bad. That's what my mama said, I'm bad. So what did he do? He acted out being bad all day. What we call our children, they become.
Our nation is only as strong as our weakest families. That's true of every nation around the world, every community, every town, every state. The people who run the government, businesses, the military, services, hospitals, they all come from families. And families is where we inherit not just our genetic predispositions, but a lot of our attitudes, behaviors that follow us out into the streets, to school, and to adult life. So we want to encourage, if you are concerned about your community, the police have a role, the psychiatrists, everybody has a role. The families also have a role. And that's part of what we offer as a specialty, assistance and help for families who need coaching.
So the question is, do you find yourself giving in to your child's demands or yelling at them? Do you find discipline to be a tough job? Would you like to discover how to keep peace in your home and learn strategies to discipline with love? So this evening, what we want to look at is, what does discipline with love mean? What is the difference between discipline and punishment? We'll look at some words to avoid, and then understanding the peace that your home can have by using logical consequences rather than punishment. And at the end, we'll cut off the record. And if you have some personal questions you'd like to ask, you feel free to do that. Okay. Now, so what is discipline with love? That's the question.
One of the questions is, what is your understanding of love? And some of us would be encouraged to define to define love so that when situations change, the love is still there.
Unconditional.
Unconditional. This is, as the Greeks say, the agape. And that love makes a decision, even though there are challenges. There's a text that says, love suffers long and is kind. And the text to me means love endures the successes, the trials, the challenges of life. And while it is suffering, it is kind to the one who is causing it to suffer. That takes some understanding, discipline, and practice on the part of the adults, the parents, the siblings. So the goal is to love even when the situation is harmful, daunting, and hurting. These are things that we might want, that we do often in a personal or a group session with the family.
So, summary, love should permeate every aspect of our families, wherever we're at home, at church, we're an outing, at the shopping center, in the park, wherever.
And one of the things that some of us had to learn is to love ourselves. Because you can only love someone else based on how you sense love for yourself. And that may take some challenges for a while.
If you don't feel love.
If you don't feel love, and if you don't love yourself, it's a challenge to love someone else unconditionally.
So the basic principle for this concept of love is, when love is applied in all disciplines, the child's self-esteem is always considered. What are they feeling inside? It's important to consider the impact the words that come from our mouths will have on the child.
And keep in mind, though you may have said something or think about something that you regret, the brain has recorded that already. It's in the child's brain.
I like to share this, and again, I talk more about it in my book, but Kay Kuzma is a parent educator as well, and she gives these principles on love, ways to fill your love cup. She said we should fill our love cup our child's love cup every day by doing these things, giving them attention. Now, children equate love with attention. I think all of us do. I mean, if you got up in the morning and nobody said anything to you, paid no attention to you, you wouldn't feel very loved, would you? So that attention that we give them, and sometimes what happens is if they don't get that attention, they act out to get that attention. So we have to be a good example in words and action to keep the love cup full. Use words that protect and preserve their feelings.
So based on some of the things in my book, The Gift of Criticism, even if the child says something harsh to me as the parent, as the adult, my response, I want it to be healing and engaging so that there's a mutually beneficial outcome, rather than, don't you talk to me like that, I'm your parent. Then we get into that conflict, and now we got a battle to win. I'm saying we can respond in a way that will lead us to the bridge of harmony.
Yes, thank you. So how do we empty our child's love cup? Say, what if I'm not doing these other things? Expressing approval only when a child's behavior is good, approving. So this is loving conditionally. Threatening the child in an attempt to correct him. We'll talk about threats and bribes later. They come into play sometimes when we, quote, need them maybe. Expressing a relentless critical attitude. I mean, if you're critical to this child all the time, how can they feel loved? Everything they do and say and think and act and move is critical. Screaming at the child. We'll talk about what can we do about our screaming, because it's normal that we get upset and we want to scream. Well, what can we do about that? Expressing disappointment or disgust, giving this silent treatment, not even talking to the child, that's harmful. So being too busy to give attention. This is how you empty the love cup. Using a child's name in a negative manner. See, sometimes
please, name calling, belittling, putting down is harmful to the child's psyche and sense of self, and can have an impact on their behavior in certain places. There are other elements, diet, candy, dyes, and all that stuff is in the food. But some of it's the words that they hear from sometimes the parents, or sometimes the siblings or other relatives.
Or at school. And we think about bullying. Sometimes bullying may begin at home and they take it with them. What do we think about it?
So I teach people how to disarm the bully without getting into a fight, without it going negative. So
we want to fill our child's love cup. And now this is just an introduction to get you thinking about, what can I do so every day my child will feel loved? Now, once this word, this is just, I'm reiterating, we want this to stick. Once the word is out there, you can't bring it back. The Miranda rule, Bill, like
Miranda rule in law is, they say to you, anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. Well, anything you say under your breath sometimes, or even a sigh, somebody is going to interpret it and they determine the meaning. So have options for how you express yourself when you're hurt, disappointed, frustrated, tired, or angry.
We'll talk about some of those options. So now, are there any questions before we move on? We want to look next at discipline and punishment. What is the difference, or is there a difference? Think about it. In discipline, the root word is disciple or learner. Training that develops self-control. And that's what every parent wants to have, that child to have self-control when they're in school, as well as when they're at home. Punishment is a punitive action that takes place right now, is triggered usually by what? Anger. or embarrassment. You're in the store and they're embarrassing you. So you punish them.
Sometimes children at different ages may be in pain or discomfort, or they may not be ready to go to sleep. And so as the parent, as the adult, I need various options to engage the child based on where they are versus what I want them to do and to be at 3 o'clock in the morning, when I've got to get up and I've got things to do too. Yelling at them, screaming at them, calling them names probably won't help them get to sleep any faster or any better. So I have to demonstrate certain controls over my emotions so that I can engage this child who has got a stomach problem or can't sleep or something, so that they're not feeling punished as a result of their behavior.
That's why we have to be sensitive to each child. We have to know what their needs are individually.
And avoid comparing this. Why can't you be like yours? That's not helpful. There are other options to employ.
Because they can't be like their brother or sister. We're all individuals. And as parents, that may be the hardest part to get, that every child is different and we have to accept them. Being different is not wrong. It's just being different.
So we have to be versatile in how we approach, interact based on who they are. They're not going to manipulate me. I'm just going to be skilled and competent in how I interact with them so that we can live in harmony as best as possible.
I love that harmony word. Okay. Now in punishment, what's the purpose? To inflict pain and hurt. I'm mad at this child. I want them to understand this is not what I like and what I want them to do. And it's usually something they've done, the past deed. And the attitude is hostility and frustration on the part of the parent. So the outcome is fear and guilt. I was fortunate enough to come from a home where I didn't get that punishment that my husband experienced when he was little. So he can tell you a little bit about it. We have a little time.
Let me say at the outset, the pain that I experienced with my mom was healed in over decades living down the road. So, but she was mean, she was abusive, she was physically and verbally abusive, as were many people in the community I grew up in. And so we lived in fear of the parents or the neighbors, the adults, of doing something wrong because you know you were going to get punished. And usually that was a physical punishment with a belt, with a switch, with an electric cord. Things today would be considered abusive and people could be probably arrested or their children taken from them. When I was growing up, that was just community practice. So I had to unlearn a lot of the words and reframe them, the experiences, so that I could connect with my mother as parent, child, and then as both of us adults.
So he lived in fear, though, he said, most of the time, because that was his words that his mother would say to him.
Well, the theme was, boy, don't you know I will kill you. She said it with a lot of angst, not a lot of power, because I believed her. I actually believed that one day she was going to kill me. We did heal over some time. I had to do a lot of change.
Fear and guilt. We don't want that to happen in our families. We want what? Love. Okay. So what can happen? What do we need to do now? How do we help ourselves? When that time comes, you're home and you're tired and you had a hectic day at work and somebody really upset you at work. So you're still a little upset from that, but you're home and your child said something or did something and you are ready to scream. What can you do?
The first step in self-control is to control your breathing. Control your breath, your inhale and your exhale. So that can lower your intensity of the feelings, the emotions, lower your stress, and give your brain more operating power so that you can get solutions to the problem that's before you. Someone told me a long time ago that a problem is an opportunity misunderstood. Well, that's true in many aspects of life, especially at home, especially with relationships. So breathing correctly, there are books and you can read all kinds of things about breathing to control yourself, which gives you more power to control the interaction you have with spouse, significant other, children, disappointment, the teachers, etc.
Breathing is a healing principle. We really need to work
We
on it.
really have to work at breathing correctly.
Okay, so the purpose of discipline is to train for correction. Correct the future deeds. What they did yesterday, we don't want to be talking about working on that 2 weeks from now. We want to correct what's happened and move on with love and concern. And the outcome is security and trust. So the child can say, they can come to you safely and feel like they can tell you anything. They can trust you without you screaming at them and telling them what they should do or what they shouldn't do, but just listening.
All without murmuring, oh God, here we go again. I thought this was all, well, the child takes a message from that and may be less inclined to come to us. When I was a child, the mantra was children should be, can anybody finish that? Children should be seen
and not heard.
and not heard.
Everybody knows that, right?
So we learned not to talk to them. And then we got older and we would hear people, the adults talking about, I don't know why they won't talk to me. Well, we've been trained to not talk to you. So you have to make it so that it's an option for the child to consider talking to you.
And how are we going to let that happen? Before we get into specific punishment and consequent things, these are some words that we need to just get rid of first to avoid altogether.
These are words, we'd be better off without using them. And it takes some skill to learn how to do that because we've inherited. So negatives generally cause relationships to be in some kind of stress or strain. So when we use negatives, the negatives only get reinforced. So for instance, I'm going to say to you, don't think of the Washington Monument.
What did you just do?
What did you just think of the Washington Monument? Did you see a picture?
Yes.
Did you see
Yes.
an image of it?
Yep. Didn't he say don't?
Yes.
So I said to
He
you,
said
don't do
think
that.
of it.
So that means I set you up to do what I said I didn't want you to do, and I don't even know it. So if we say to our child, don't be late, they heard be late. Don't look at me like that. They heard look at me like that. Just like I said to you, don't think of the Washington Monument. Our psyche, our unconscious either can't hear or can't process the negatives. Even when we're talking to ourselves, I'm not going to be late. I'm not going to eat too much. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to. And then we end up eating too much or being angry and figure out, oh, what the heck. Language is a big part of relationship formation. So we want to say what we want. So you say to the child, be ready to walk out the door at 7:55, whatever the time is. I will walk out the door. I expect for you to be ready. So if you say to them the other word, their psyche is thinking about being late rather than timely.
Or if a little one is running and you say, don't run, and you get upset because they keep on running, they aren't being disobedient. They heard you say run.
So instead of saying don't run, you want to say what to them? Somebody?
Walk.
What do you want?
Walk.
Use your
Walk.
walking feet.
Walk.
Yeah.
And wait for them to respond. When you do this in the affirming, breath controlled way, generally you won't have to repeat things, but they have to get used to you being different. So you got to keep that in mind. When you change, they'll change, but you will have to change first. Then they'll have to test to see the validity of the change on your part.
If you really meant it.
I'm just being real and honest with you. Just because you decide to change doesn't mean they'll experience it that way right away. Okay? The interrogative why. For relationship enhancement, we encourage never ask anybody why. And usually somebody wants to know
Why?
why. So who can I ask to, I'd like to do a little illustration with you. I need to see you though.
Maybe Michaela is there.
Michaela, can you, are you okay with
Yes.
this, Michaela?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody pay attention to this. I'm gonna do this the wrong way. Michaela, why did you wear this top that you have on?
Because I like it.
Because you like it. All right. How did you feel when I asked you that question?
Like interrogated.
Interrogated.
How did somebody else feel even though I was talking to Michaela? Anybody else? Did you have a feeling there?
Like she was being put on the spot.
Like she's being put on the spot.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do it the preferred way. Michaela, please tell me something about this top you wore today.
Oh, I really like it.
Did that feel, how did that feel compared to when I asked you why?
Yes. It feels better. It feels like not, I didn't feel the pressure.
Yes. And did anybody notice her facial and eye differences?
Yes.
Her facial response was different. Her eye responses were different. Even before she spoke, we saw the difference. So why is a question of judgment that puts the other person on the defensive and sets the stage for a fight.
So if I ask my 5-year-old, why did you do that? What kind of answer am I gonna get?
I don't know, or because, or I couldn't help it. So I'm going to ask a question about the behavior without asking why. Tell me what's going on right now. And then you have to wait for the response.
And let them really know you want to wait. You want to know. And then they can say, well, I was angry, or they did this, or somebody hit me. You could get much more information.
And when you get more information and you start to talk better to each other, with each other, your relationships enhance. It takes practice because a lot of this isn't taught. But is in a disjunctive conjunction. I call it the eraser. So if you pay someone a compliment, your child brings home the report card and they have 6 grades there and 5 of them are A's and excellent. And then there's one that's other than you would like. You say, wow, this is an excellent report card, but you just erased the compliment. Do you feel that?
Mhm.
So rather than saying, but, we want to say, wow, look at these grades here. I'd like to know more about this one. Do you get the difference there?
Yes.
Sometimes you want him to start with the bad one and overlook the good ones, you know.
Yeah.
We start with the negative one. Look, why did you get that D in math or whatever?
So in our workshops, we do some illustrations back and forth and give the group a chance to practice depending on the time and the setting. And the fourth one we hear, it's not the last one, it's not the only. This word is a term of non-commitment. So I'm going to ask everybody, would you try to raise your right hand, please? Everybody, if you would. Well, I want you to try. You're actually doing it. I want you to try.
Get the
Try.
message.
Try is a term of non-commitment. You either do it or not. So we avoid the word try. I'll do my best. I'll stop. If you say to me, I'll try to make it to the cookout, I know you're probably not coming. You're just being politically correct. So I'll say, if you say I'll try to make it to the cookout, I'll say, what time should I expect you? And then let them tip on up and say, well, I can't make it. I don't want to put them on the spot, but I would like to get a specific answer.
And children will use this try word, Okay, say for example, you're going to ask them, why? Why did you hit your brother? I tried not to.
I tried to be nice.
Tried to be nice, they'll use it.
So we often, we've inherited through the culture, through the language, certain things that just get passed along generation to generation without having a good intervention and alternative. So this is what we offer. This is some of what we offer.
So these words we want to kind of get in your mind to avoid before we talk about the specifics. Now, keeping peace in your home through the power of logical consequences instead of punishment. And we know about natural consequence. We know if you put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burned. You jump off a building, you might kill yourself. But these are logical things that go along with the behavior. So the first thing we recommend before you even think about logical consequences is to have this meeting, or when you think about changing things around and having logical consequences instead of punishment. We recommend that you have a family meeting. Now,
Family meetings are just good to have on some kind of regular basis. Depending on your setting, your situation, it may be weekly, maybe quarterly. I don't know. We've been married 54 years and we still have a date night, and our children know it. The people who know us know that. So family meetings, there's ways to set them up so that they're not boring and dull and punitive, because you could make the family meeting a punishment if you're not careful. So having family meetings, if you can look up the things on the web, or you can call us and we can talk about it further at length, but just have a family meeting regularly. Do you know of any businesses or organizations that don't have meetings?
Our families, so we have to
Nearly
do that.
everybody does, except for families.
So in this meeting, we're just going to go briefly over a few things. We want to clarify expectations, because see, as parents, a lot of times we think our children know what we expect of them, but we have really never clarified it. And in a meeting, you can talk about it. Oh, Johnny, what does mom expect you to do when you come home from school? What does she expect you to do when you get ready for bed? All of these expectations need to be verbalized. And some of them need to be written down. My daughter's 10-year-old, he has them write down everything he's supposed to do. Get up in the morning, brush your teeth, wash your face, whatever he has specifically. And he needs that, whereas the other child doesn't need that. That's why we need to know what each child needs. But that expectation, they can't guess what you want. You have to tell them. So we decide on the logical consequences in these meetings that will go with the situation. We're going to go over some logical consequences. And in my book in the chapter on discipline, I have a lot of suggestions on logical consequences. Have your child verbalize the agreement. So Bill, what's the reason that's important?
When they hear it coming out of their own mouth, it's kind of hard for them to say, I didn't hear that. So for the older children, we don't want to feel like they're being babied, belittled. I want to hear from them what the expectation is, if they're going out on a date, or if they're going to the movie, or if they're going to the neighbor's house, or whatever, or the game. I want them to tell me what's going on. And they say, I say, it's for my benefit. I just want to make sure I understand it. And be patient and breathe. When you change, they have to see if the change is going to last. So there's going to be a testing period.
So as that older child, you understand what he's saying, that because you don't want to say, well, tell me, what did I say? you don't say that with the older child, it really will become annoyed. But if you approach it the way, just to help me, I want to be clear on what we understand about this situation. And then they can say, okay, Mom, when I come home from school, I'm gonna do my homework, and then at 6 o'clock, I'm gonna get on the computer, and 7 o'clock, I'm going everything, let them verbalize what. And what does Bill say when he heard him?
If you say it and they don't repeat it, they say, I didn't hear that. But if you get them to repeat it, even if it's, not the full thing, their brain heard them say it.
And then, so in that verbalizing that agreement, it's so important. And to decide on weekly checkups. And that's why we're saying every week, let's just have a meeting every week. Now, let's see how's our time. We
There's
have
some questions in the chat. Do you want to wait until the end or address them?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Elena M asks, what if I really mean that I will try to make it, but I can't promise?
Then you say, I have a challenge with my schedule today already. I'm not sure if I can make it. If I can, I will.
Nice. And the second, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, the second question is from Marciela de Grace. Is there a minimum age to implement these family meetings and expectations?
I would say generally any age.
Yes.
Now, when we had our fourth child, we learned along the way. So we included this child, even though the child was in utero. We communicated with her. I talked to her.
Nice.
The siblings talked to the baby, so that when the baby is born, they know 3, 4, 5 voices, not just mom. And we can implement these changes as it's appropriate for the child.
And so if you have a 2-year-old, you can meet with that 2-year-old and say, it's Tuesday, or whatever you decide. We're going to have meeting every Tuesday. Come
And
on.
the meeting might be 10 minutes.
Yeah. But if the child expects it, and then we're going to talk about how it went today. When you got up this morning, what did you do? And just let them, 2-year-olds know.
They know.
They know.
By the way, there's a book called How to Teach Your Baby How to Read. It's on brain damage, but it talks about the things that people can do. And so as children mature and are able, we train them how to facilitate the family meeting and let them run the meeting.
And so even they're young, you can write the words really big. When you get up in the morning, you're going to brush your teeth. Put that up on the word on a big piece of paper. Brush your teeth. Whatever it is you want. You can write the word on some cards. If you want them to remember names of things in your home, put a little card up and have window written there. If there's a door there, put the word door. And it's amazing. It's just going in the brain. And they're receiving that information.
Now I can feel somebody saying, but I don't have time to do all of this. We're saying that family is a priority, and some of these things, we just have to find some time to do some of them.
And the children are happy. Let's do that at the family meeting. Pass out cards and everybody write a name of something in their room on it.
So one of our daughters was in the 6th grade and had the advanced school and stuff, whatever it's called, advanced placement, and she was in the 6th grade and doing math. And I came home one night, 10:30 p.m. I'm tired. The only thing I could imagine was the bed. And I walked in the door, she's at the table, and she says, Dad, I need help with this math. And I did this, I went, I sighed. And she said, oh, that's all right. That's all right. And I apologized. She said, I know you're tired. That's all right. I'll figure it out. And I said to her, I apologize. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to change my clothes. I'm going to take a shower and I'll be right back. Then she worked diligently to get, no, Dad, I should be able to do it. I said, you called me. You're my child. I am tired. When I take the shower, I'll feel refreshed and we'll come back to this. And that's what I did. It's my child. If I fuss at her, you're in the advanced program. Don't they teach you this at school? Don't you know I'm tired? I can't.
Where's the love?
Where's the love? Where's the love? And I grew, mind you, I did not grow up like that. I learned.
Yeah.
I learned. I'm still learning. So I'm sorry I took a little long on that.
No, so actually, because you're going to have a handout with more of this information about logical consequences and punishment. So right now, I just wanted to go through this. What's the logic behind logical consequences? It's a reasonable and predictable outcome as a result of a behavior. So your child does something, and then what is the outcome of what they do? Okay, I see a hand. Would you like to say what you want to say? I think it's Hattie.
Hattie, you're muted.
Unmute yourself and talk.
Can't hear you.
You have to unmute. Okay.
I
Unmute.
didn't have it. I didn't have anything to say. I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
moving.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right.
Now, one thing that's really, really important is that when the parent and the child comes to a prior understanding before this behavior happens, that's why we talk about expectations. Well, I expected you to do this when you came home. They know what they are. So they know exactly what's expected. And then that's why you can have the logical, that's the logic behind logical consequences. Well, if you don't do this, what is the consequence of you not doing it?
And it is important for both parents or both adults to agree,
Both adults.
or the caregiver or the grandpa.
If they
Take
don't,
the time. If you expect the child to eat this and not eat that and do that, the caregiver, the support has to follow that so that the child can't pick and choose.
well, daddy said I could eat this, or mommy said, you know, and then there's that tension.
Now they've taken it off of them and put it on us, and they stand back and watch the battle between us. You know what I'm saying? So mom and dad or a caregiver or whomever have to agree. Have to is a strong word. It works better when they agree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's important that the understanding between the parent and the child is established. This is what you do in your family meeting. So on your paper handout, we don't have time to go through each one, but there is a page that says logical consequences and then punishment to help you understand the difference. And I want to tell you about this book. It's an old book, but it's awesome with giving you example. It's called The Parent's Handbook by Don Dinkmeyer. And you could get it online anywhere. It's an old book, but it's a handbook I think every parent should have. But
Let me back up a minute to the parents. I remember a situation with a child whose behavior was challenging in school, and the parents were not together. So I met with the parents separately, and the things that the parents said about each other kept them from being united on how they were going to address the matter with their daughter. Because one of the parents would intentionally violate the agreement to upset the other parent. You follow what I'm saying? So one parent says, my child is a vegetarian. Well, the other parent gets the child and takes them to get meat just to annoy the other parent, but they're hurting the child in between. So we have to work with that situation.
And so the difference, and just look over the differences between a punishment and a consequence. Now, here's an example. I just want to read just to see, so you see how this book, what it does for you. Okay, it's talking about being careful when you're angry, but then, wait, let me read. I want to read a situation. It says, on Monday, Mom saw Kayla riding her bike with no hands. Mom told Kayla, riding with no hands isn't safe. You can lose control. Then you could be hit by a car, or you could ride your bike safely or walk to your friend's house, and you decide. So the mom is giving them choices, right? You decide. You can either ride your bike safely or walk to your friend's house. See, that they didn't say, well, don't you ride like that, because don't, remember, she's just gonna ride recklessly. That's not gonna help anything at all. Well, Kayla agreed to ride safely, but on Tuesday, Mom saw her goofing off again on the bike, and she said, I see you've decided to walk. You can bike again on Thursday. See, so it's making them responsible for their decision. She didn't say you're a bad girl and you weren't listening to me. What did we say? What I tell you you weren't supposed to? You don't have to go through all that fuss and anything.
Now, my interpretation of children's behavior, especially when they know they're loved and cared for, is they're going to test us to see if we mean it. Okay? So you might want to be prepared. For instance, a child is going to be, say, going to have to wait till next week, and the child may pout or complain about, but the child may be saying inside, I can trust you. You'll keep your word even when it's uncomfortable.
They know they can trust you. In another situation, it's like the parent has a teenage daughter, and she has a tendency to have her clothes all over the floor and not hang up anything, and it looks like a wreck. Okay, so she wanted to have a friend to come over, and she said, well, one of your things, what do you think you have to do? Well, I know, Mom, I have to clean up my room if my friend is coming over. Well, so Mom says, okay, I'm vacuuming. Mom took the responsibility of vacuuming. She says, I'm vacuuming, so I'm going to come up in your room tomorrow and vacuum up. Now, if everything is on the floor, you know what that means. I can't vacuum. Everything is on the floor. So we need to decide what happens if the clothes are still on the floor. Now you decide whether you want to put them somewhere else so I can vacuum. So this is training the children to be responsible. Okay, then talk about, okay, if the clothes are still on the floor, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
And everybody knows that up front.
Okay, so in that meeting, so you've decided, okay, if we leave the clothes on the floor, I can't vacuum. I can take the clothes and put them away. I could put them in a bag and give them away to Goodwill. I could put them in the basement and you can't have them for a week. Decide on what the consequence will be, and it goes smoothly.
And make sure you can live with the consequence.
Yeah, you can't change your mind.
You gotta be able to live with that once you agree to it.
Right. And even with food, if you have a strong-willed child and they screaming every morning, I don't want to eat that one. And in the family meeting, you've talked about the food, what the menu is, and you've decided on Thursday they can choose this, on Friday they can choose this to eat. Then when you wake up the next morning and they want, well, this is Thursday, this is what you chose. If they don't want to eat it, guess what? The consequences, they go hungry. It's not punishing them, it's letting them live with the decision they make.
And depending on the age of the child and their behavior, I'm pretty good at finding ways to connect with their behavior so that the load is lightened. And sometimes you just have to be creative and willing to risk discovery. But the children want to know they're loved, and the way they know they are loved is give them attention, appropriate attention, and we engage with them. We connect with them even when their behavior is other than we would like.
So those things I have here, the arbitrary one I want. A lot of times we throw out arbitrary consequences. So we want the consequences to have a logical consequence. That's why we call them logical. So example, if your child comes home late from school and you say you're grounded, is that a logical consequence? But think about, what is it you want to learn from that not coming home from school? That's when you talk about it. What did I expect of you? You didn't come home at 6. So what's going to happen if you don't come home at 6? Are they not going to use the car again until whatever time? Are they not going to be able to drive that week? You
Have
have
any screen time?
have any, it has to be related to what the incident was. So it's not, okay, you're grounded. Well, it's okay, yeah.
Time out.
It's,
Go to your room. What are we teaching them?
Any questions? See, this one, off the children choices only when you're willing to abide by their decision. That's why I said in the eating, you've already decided what they can eat. So they have these choices, and these are the choices. And if they don't want them, that's all right. They can be hungry. And another example is like, okay, you say to your child for lunch, you say you have to make your lunch tonight, in the evening, so it can be ready, put it in the refrigerator and be ready for you to pick up and take out the door in the morning. If they forget to do that, think of what a consequence would be. Simple, they could be hungry. Or maybe if they get an allowance, they can use their allowance money to buy. Or if they forgot their allowance money, they could steal the consequence as being hungry. And basically, it happened one time, that's it. And they remember.
We're looking at foundational things that children and parents and families can stand on with these turmoils and things that are happening in the world, in the strife. And we started out by saying the nation is only as strong as its weakest families. So when we see the role of the family and the structure and integrity of the nation, we go back to the basics and teach relationship skills, communication skills with the adults, with the children, the grandchildren, the neighbors. And if you heal the community, if you heal the homes, you heal the communities. It takes time. So we don't want to overload, frustrate you, but we want you to see that how serious this is, because what we've done up to this point nationally has only gotten us more stress, more conflict.
Okay, it's
Oh, it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. We can.
Were there any other questions that we might?
I wanted to talk about threat. That's on your handout too. What does a threat do? Usually it gives a condition, and we usually use threats when we feel like, oh, I'm getting embarrassed. I'm out of the store and the child is on the floor screaming they want this. So you give in. But if they know you're going to give in, you will continue that behavior, right?
So just with that behavior, depending on the age of the child, but the child, we go into the grocery store and we write out the grocery list, and we get there and the child sees something that they want that's not on the list. May I have this? We just look at the list. Let's see, what is that? Oh,
It's not.
that's not on our list. Case closed. Now, if they demonstrate and fall out into the floor, I might sit on the floor with them and say, "You're really disappointed, huh?" You see the attempt to connect. I'm okay if people see us sitting on the floor and I'm engaged with I'm okay. They can't call the police on me for that. And you see what I'm saying? We're saying, if I hit the child, now somebody might call CPS on me.
We'll start screaming at them.
Or start screaming at them. Somebody might call. But if I have options that I can employ with the personality of this child, the personality of that, then they'll learn that I can be trusted and I trust them. That we call that love.
And see the consequence, remember, if it's talked about ahead of time, when you're getting ready to go shopping, they should know what to expect. And so you can decide then, well, if you choose to want to get something on the list and you get upset about it, we'll just come home. And when you say that, you have to be prepared to leave the store and come home. Because they'll check.
Think about being part of an athletic team. This is one of the practice sessions. And people who play athletics practice prior to the game. So we have lots of practice exercises.
And Bill is available if you'd like to call him and have individual.
If anybody needs personal, group, family sessions, I'm available. You see our contact information is on the handout, is that right?
Yep. On the handout, you'll have my website, Edwina Grice Neely. And if you'd like to join me tomorrow night, I'm doing a class online. So we want you to remember to discipline with love. Remember, you are the most important person in your child's life. Embrace your responsibility and enjoy the journey because you have the key. Thanks for coming. Remember to fill your child's love cup.